President Trump gave an impromptu press conference today on the South Lawn of the White House, and he had a message for the supreme leader of Iran. It boils down to two words. We'll tell you what those two words are coming up in just a moment. Plus, the drama. The drama queens in the Democrat Party, where they're all trying to get themselves arrested by ICE agents because apparently it boosts their credibility. And the late senator of California, Alex Padilla, I shouldn't call him the late senator, but the latest one, Senator Alex Padilla of California, he took to the floor of the Senate and cried like a little girl. And we're going to mock him. Join in, will you? And finally, good news, brilliant news. I mean, great news, exceptional news, landmark, historical, incredible, wonderful news with regard to Trump's presidency, and one major promise that has been fulfilled beyond anyone's expectations, and the rest of the media is ignoring it. We're going to show it to you, and we're going to celebrate it coming up right now. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. My name is Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. In fact, everybody watching, please like it right now, and we'll explode our viewership while we're watching. That would be awesome, and I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, alerts, and all that jazz, and any super chats that accumulate during the program, stick around to the very end, and we'll interact with each and every one of them. We thank you for that in advance. We are days away from what's been dubbed the Rio Reset. We've talked about it here on this program. It may be the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance in over 8 decades, 80 years, 40, my friends. On July 6th, the BRICS nations, that's Russia, China, India, Iran, and many others who aren't really our friends, they're expected to unveil their plans to circumvent the U.S. dollar, possibly cratering its value. If you're holding on to a lot of dollars in your savings or your retirement accounts, you might feel a major, major earthquake. They've already been laying the groundwork. Central banks have been methodically divesting from the U.S. dollar and U.S. bonds in favor of gold. So how can you protect your IRA and 401k from the potential fallout from this meeting? Do what those central banks are doing. Diversify with gold from Birch Gold Group. Historically, gold can be a safe haven in times of high uncertainty, which is right now. Get a free info kit on tax-sheltered gold IRAs by texting my name, Larry, to 989898. July 6th marks a major meeting among nations that control 1/3 of the world's GDP. Arm yourself with information to diversify your retirement savings. Text Larry to 989898. Get that free info kit from Birch Gold. Larry, 989898. Do it today. So the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, whatever the hell they're calling him these days, just took to social media and sent a stark warning to America and the rest of the planet. He says the harm the U.S. will suffer will definitely be irreparable if they enter this conflict militarily. You scared? There's obviously a discussion going on right now across this country and certainly in Washington, D.C., at the White House in particular, about what involvement the U.S. should have, if any, with Israel's ongoing week-long conflict with the Republic of Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Some things are absolutely without doubt. One of them is that Iran is very close to a nuclear weapon. I know there's lots of controversy about that, but the fact is they have stockpiles of enriched uranium, highly enriched uranium, well beyond any means for commercial energy purposes. There's only one reason to enrich uranium at the levels they've been enriching it, and that is to have a bomb. They've also been in violation of their proliferation agreements with the international bodies that govern these things. And these are not right-wing, pro-American international bodies. In fact, quite the opposite. They come out of that cesspool of the UN. There's also one other thing that's very, very true right now. Without a doubt, Iran has never been as vulnerable as they are right now because of the initial missions carried out by the government of Israel. They have basically no air power. If something's going to be done to finish off their nuclear program, now is the time. And that seems to be the decision that the president is evaluating as we speak. Earlier today, about an hour ago, he was on the lawn of the White House installing 2 giant new flagpoles that he's financed. And while standing there, he began interacting with reporters, and he had a lot to say. He also spent a little bit of time assuaging fears of many in his base with regard to their concerns that the president is moving headfirst into a mistake like the Iraq War. To begin with, let's see what the president had to say about the latest warnings from Iran.
Unconditional surrender. Two very simple words. A very simple, unconditional surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it. I give up. No more. Then we go blow up all the all the nuclear stuff that's all over the place there. No, they had bad intentions. For 40 years they've been saying death to America, death to Israel, death to anybody else that they didn't like. They were bullies. They were schoolyard bullies. And now they're not bullies anymore, but we'll see what happens. Look, nothing's finished until it's finished. War is very complex. A lot of bad things can happen. A lot of turns are made. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that we won anything yet. I would say that we sure as hell made a lot of progress. And we'll see. The next week is going to be very big, maybe less than a week.
All right, couple things to note here. First of all, notice how he's talking about Iran in the past tense. They were bullies. He also talked about the immediate success of the initial missions into Iran to neutralize their nuclear program. He's using the term we, even though technically we haven't done anything. I mean, we have provided armaments and supplies to Israel, and Israel has gone ahead and carried out their defensive mission to make sure that this incredibly hostile neighbor that has vowed for decades to wipe them off the planet does not have the capability of doing that. The president is using the word we when referring to that. That's noteworthy. I think he also had 2-word message to Iran, which is unconditional surrender. That's not the only 2-word message he had, though. He had one specifically to the supreme leader, the Ayatollah. We'll get to that 2-word message in just a moment. And then something amazing happened. Something hilarious happened, actually. A reporter asked Trump, so what's America going to do? When are they going to do it? Where's the attack going to come from? It's like basically asking him if there are any specific plans for a military strike against Iran, and if so, what are they? What kind of moron asks that question? Excuse me, General Eisenhower, I know you're planning some kind of invasion to Europe. What day is it going to be? And, there's speculation as to whether you're going to go for Normandy in France, or maybe you may want to attack in Italy. Could you let us know so we can report it worldwide days before the D-Day invasion happens? Who are these people? They deserve to be mocked. They deserve to be derided and made fun of and insulted. And thankfully, we have a president who's up to the task. Watch what he does.
You believe the U.S. is moving closer to striking Iranian nuclear facilities. Where's your mindset on that?
I can't say that, right? You don't seriously think I'm going to answer that question? Will you strike the Iranian nuclear component? And what time exactly, sir? Sir, would you strike it? Would you please inform us so we can be there and watch? I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country. It's very sad to watch this. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's so, everyone thought it was going to be the reverse. I didn't think so. And I was telling them, you gotta do something. You gotta negotiate. And at the end, last minute, they said, no, we're not going to do that, and they got hit.
Again, with the past tense, by the way, noteworthy. Take note of these things. These are little tells. But secondly, I do love the fact he mocks the reporter to her face, then turns to the construction worker dudes who are putting up the flagpole, and he starts saying, wait, can you believe how stupid these people are? What, I'm going to tell you that? I'm going to tell you that? And they all start laughing along. That's fantastic. I love that. Anyway, then President Trump, who has been engaging, obviously, with backdoor discussions through emissaries with the Islamic Republic of Iran and other players in the region, was asked very specifically, you might not hear it from the reporter, it's off mic, did you give Iran an ultimatum?
You have that one, Larry?
Oh, hang on, sorry. I didn't click on something, so you don't see what I see. Now you do. All right, let's try that again.
The Iranian ultimatum.
You could say so. They know what's happening. Maybe you could call it the ultimate ultimatum, right?
What essentially was that, though?
Oh, I don't want to say it. Look, I mean, give me a break.
What about the Paramount deal?
I would say the elder, she's doing great.
Why? Why did they do this? Did you give Iran an ultimatum? Yeah, you could say that. You could call it the ultimate ultimatum. Really? What was it? It's just so stupid. And then that brings us to the two-word message, specifically to the Ayatollah, the guy who can, call all the shots right now. In fact, there are rumors being reported that he's trying to negotiate with Putin over in Russia for exile. He might skip town. He might get his turban out of Tehran and try to save his own butt. The courageous, fearless leader that is. Donald Trump was asked today if he had a message for the Ayatollah, and here's that message.
President, what do you say to the Supreme Leader of Iran who said that they will not surrender?
Say good luck.
What is the end game?
Say it. It's already run out. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah, they had 60 days and a big, 60 days, plenty of time. And they made a mistake. Honestly, they made a mistake. Their country's in ruins. So many people are dead that shouldn't be dead.
Do you have a message for the Supreme Leader? Yeah, 2 words. Good luck. Good luck, pal. Kiss your ass goodbye. Damn. There is something refreshing about seeing a president just sort of hanging out, watching. I think he loves the construction process, and he's commissioned these giant flagpoles for the White House grounds. He wanted to go out there and see it as they were being put up. In fact, he was making jokes with the construction workers. We're going to show you a little bit of a funny clip to sort of cut the tension here with all the war talk at the end of this segment. But there's just something very cool about seeing him hanging out there, watching the construction process and just sort of engaging and shooting the shit with with a bunch of reporters. And through it, he was sort of just speaking off the cuff like this moment.
What gave you the idea to do this?
I've had it for a long time. The first time I had it, but you guys were after me. I said I had to focus. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. It's a big difference. Big difference.
Did you catch that? So one of the reporters said, how long have you been planning on doing these flagpoles? And he said, I had the idea for a long time. I wanted to do it in the first term, but I was dealing with so much stuff that first term, as they were going after him with Russian collusion and the special prosecutors and the lie of the day every single day and all of the fake news and all the controversies. And he just summed it up by saying, I was the hunted, but I've gone from the hunted to the hunter. I like the way he leaned in on that, by the way. Can we just watch that one more time?
What gave you the idea to do this?
I've had it for a long time. The first time I had it, but you guys were after me. I said I had to focus. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. It's a big difference.
I love that. Now I'm the hunter. Be the wolf. That's the lesson from Little Red Riding Hood. Not to stay on the path, not to follow the rules. The lesson is to be the wolf. All right, a little bit more talk about Iran here, and most specifically, and this may be the most important 30 seconds of this entire impromptu presser, when asked specifically about ruptures and concerns and very vocal criticisms from what is determined to be the MAGA base. We touched on this quite a bit yesterday and talked about many people, thought leaders, influencers, content creators. You notice no elected officials, really, not really. It's all the people in the commentariat, and they're important, and Trump cares about them, and they're certainly part of keeping the so-called MAGA base together. They have been, many of them, expressing grave concerns about Trump moving forward with this action against Iran and what the fallout might be. Will it be a forever war? Will it be a needless war? Why drag America into this? Are we just doing this for Israel? What's our interest in it? Why destabilize the region? All those questions that are legitimate to an extent. Trump had a message for all of you who may be thinking that, who may be wondering that. Here it is.
Some of the people in the base don't want a long-term war. They're afraid that we're going to get into a long-term war.
We're not looking for a long-term war. We're looking. I only want one thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Right.
That's it. I'm not looking long-term, short-term. And I've been saying that for 20 years. I've been saying it as a civilian who got a lot of publicity. People would cover it. Very simply, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's it. It's not a question of anything else. And if you did, you wouldn't have much of a country because they would use it on us and they'd use it on other people and they'd be a terror all over the world.
So there it is. If you have a concern about a long-term engagement with Iran and in the Middle East, if you have a concern about nation building and regime change, if you have a concern about a long-term endless commitment of the military due to this excursion with Iran, Donald Trump just delivered the message that I would hope you were looking to hear. It's not going to happen. This is about one thing and one thing only, not regime change, not occupation, not long-term military security personnel trying to secure the region and give it. No, none of that. One thing, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen. And I got a couple of things to say about this. Let's just watch it real fast, especially the first part of it.
Some of the people in the base don't want a long-term war. They're afraid that we're going to get into a long-term war.
We're not looking for a long-term war. We're looking. I only want one thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Right.
That's it. I'm not looking long-term, short-term. And I've been saying that for 20 years.
Then that's true. And let's face it, President Trump has been consistent on this, and so has every president before him. Like going all the way back to Ronald Reagan, this has been a concern. And every single president has said the exact same thing. Now, not all of them have really followed through. One of them in particular, with the initials BO, actually gave Iran as much runway as they could possibly want to be able to enrich uranium, to be able to actually move toward a nuclear weapon. If he hadn't, we wouldn't be in the dire situation that we're in right now, as they are as close as they are. But every president up to now has said the exact same thing, and there's nothing different with regard to President Trump's position, whether you're talking about the presidents before him or whether you're talking about Donald Trump himself as a civilian, as he pointed out. I guess the difference is, and I'll explore a couple of ideas with you here if you don't mind. Number one, as I already mentioned, President Trump, unlike his predecessors, is actually in a position to do something about this, partly because of Israel already moving forward for the past week in weakening Iran's air defenses and destroying quite a bit of their Iranian enrichment, their uranium enrichment protocols. It really just appears to require one final exclamation point, and whether we do it or whether we assist in doing it seems to be the question. That's a big difference. But make no mistake, not only has every president up until now said the exact same thing that Trump has said, and now Trump finds himself in a position to actually do something about it, but there's another thing to consider. Does Donald Trump want to be the president who was in office when Iran actually did get that nuclear weapon? Nobody wants to be that guy. Nobody wants to be the president who allowed this to happen. No one wants to be the guy who will have it in the history books that Iran got a nuclear weapon on their watch. He knows that. Also, everyone's saying, and I'm one of them, if you go in with a military incursion right now and you assist in ending the nuclear program and that ends up destabilizing the government, and then there may be a military coup or there may be uprisings or maybe worse actors come in and they become an even worse terrorist state than the Ayatollahs. All of those scenarios are worth exploring, right? It's the whole idea. You break it, you bought it. You go in and you destabilize this government and they get overthrown. Well, you're responsible for what comes next. And Trump gets that, and his entire national security team gets it. And that's part of the contemplation that's going on right now. But if that's the case, and it's worth exploring and being responsible about having that conversation in a fully transparent way, which we should, well, then it's also responsible to talk through the consequences of Iran obtaining a nuclear weapon. If we do nothing and Iran continues down this path, everyone says, well, you know, they're going to get a nuclear weapon and then they may use it against Israel, or they may use it against another ally. They may use it against where the military bases for the United States are in that region. Or if they develop an intercontinental ballistic missile, they'll be able to use it against us in our homeland. Those are all things to consider, but that's not the only thing to consider. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon and you're Saudi Arabia, you're fast-tracking a nuclear weapon. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon and you're Jordan, you're Egypt, you're Turkey, you're fast-tracking a nuclear weapon. Nobody is talking about this aspect, the domino effect that occurs if the Persians in the Middle East, who are seeking dominance historically over the Arab nations, if suddenly they're a nuclear power, then the Arab nations will demand to be co-equal nuclear powers. You worry about nuclear proliferation, the last thing you want is the mullahs to have a nuclear bomb. And I promise that's part of the equation in the White House too. All right, more from President Trump today in this impromptu press conference.
You probably, but this looks better.
Mr. President, can you share some of what you've told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu?
So keep going. What way you say? I speak to him every day. He's a good man, doing a lot. Been very unfairly treated by his country, I think. Very unfairly treated.
Have you given him any indication that you may seek to aid them more than you have already?
No, I haven't. So far, he's doing a good job. He has been treated very unfairly by his country. You know, he's a wartime president, and he's going through this nonsense. It's ridiculous.
Sounds like you had a good
agree
meeting.
with him that
Yeah, the National Security Council.
Very good meeting, yeah.
Anything that came up.
As you probably
There you go. Voice of support for Benjamin Netanyahu. And when asked, what did you tell him? He said, keep going, keep doing it. You're doing a good job. All right. I mentioned that there were some lighter moments during this photo op, and there were. We could actually play you a whole segment's worth of Trump at his best, doing stand-up, interacting with the construction workers and with the press, and being an all-around pretty funny guy. But one clip in particular stood out to us, mostly because we're basically 12-year-olds at heart. This was a great moment.
have a good, they call it a lifting. They also use another word, but I'm not going to use that word. You know what that is? The word, it starts with an E. You know what the word is? If I ever used it, I'd be run out of town by you people. All right, so enjoy it. Duck, you're going to get some good. He's going to win another Nobel Prize, I think, for this picture. So maybe the flag will be even more exciting, but this is pretty exciting. That's some equipment, I'll tell you what. Let's have a
All right, so they're going to have a good lifting as they put up the flagpole. A lifting, he's calling it. There's another word they use that starts with an E, but he's not going to say that. He'll get run out of town. It's erection. Erection. It's good to have a laugh. After all, we're on the brink of war. It was funny. Erection. Hey, become a member of Town Hall VIP, will you? Go to townhallvip.com and use my name, Larry, for 50% off your membership. That'll get you an ad-free experience on all our sites, and we're talking good sites. Sites you already go to. Town Hall and Hot Air and Red State and PJ Media and Twitchy and Bearing Arms. Plus, you'll get a ton of behind the VIP paywall content just for you, including video streams, podcasts, and exclusive columns. And finally, you'll be helping our organization and the journalism that we do. You'll be helping this show. Become a member of Town Hall VIP. That's at townhallvip.com. Well, we had another Democrat politician get in the middle of federal law enforcement officials arresting somebody that they had a warrant for. And, well, he got in the middle of it. He put his hands on the law enforcement officers, and he got dealt with just like you and I would get dealt with. He got arrested. But there's something about that arrest. We looked at the picture. There's something about this arrest that is sort of missing the attention of a lot of observers. It didn't miss our gaze. We want to show you this very important element. The Democrats want these images. They want these pictures out there. But there's part of this image, I think, a profound part, that they don't want you to see. They weren't planning on it. We're going to show that to you coming up in a sec. But first, the last Democrat to create this scene was Senator Alex Padilla. You remember him. He started barging toward the podium where Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem was delivering statements, started shouting questions like a lunatic. He was wearing a polo shirt and a windbreaker and jeans, and the security guys immediately did their job. They started to restrain him, push him back, keep him away from the secretary. Only then he started screaming, "I'm Senator Alex Padilla. Don't you know who I am?" And the fact is they didn't know who he was. And it doesn't matter. He could say he was Napoleon Bonaparte. He could say he was Donald Trump. He could say he was Brad Pitt. At that point, the only thing security does is neutralize the threat. Then you check IDs afterwards. And in this case, neutralizing the threat meant getting him down, handcuffing him, and then you have a conversation. That's what you want law enforcement to do in a situation like that. But Senator Alex Padilla, after that harrowing nightmare where I believe he was handcuffed for a total of 90 seconds, this traumatizing moment will forever scar him, will forever leave a mark on his soul. And he brought that grief, he brought that anguish, he brought that pain to the floor of the United States Senate.
Was forced to the ground. First on my knees, and then flat on my chest. And as I was handcuffed and marched down a hallway, repeatedly asking, "Why am I being detained?" Not once did they tell me why. I pray you never have a moment like this. But I will tell you, in that moment, a lot of questions came to my mind. First of all, where are they taking me? Because I know I'm not just being escorted out of the building. Am I being arrested here? And what will a city already on edge from being militarized think when they see their United States senator being handcuffed just for trying to ask a question?
Well, of course, he wasn't handcuffed for trying to ask a question. He was handcuffed for barging into the press conference that was a private invite-only press conference, by the way. And by the way, he's not a member of the press. Barging in and charging toward the podium and shouting questions at the Secretary of Homeland Security in a secure building, in a secure environment where members of this cabinet are constantly under threat of violence, where the president has actually had to endure at least 2 assassination attempts that we know about over the course of the last 9 months. It wasn't about asking a question. Nobody was arrested for asking a question. But those are fine questions that he's asking now, these questions that race through his mind. What will this city think when they see their senator being arrested for this thing? Yeah, you know what? That's fair. Maybe you should have thought of that before you broke the law. You see, there's a common theme to this segment where we show you these Democrats getting arrested, starting with Padilla here. And here's the theme. You better not try what they did. They are indignant that they got arrested for doing something that if you tried it, you would not be released 15 minutes later. You would still be in jail right now. See, they have this arrogance that they are Democrat elected officials and they can break the law. And if you try to do something about it, how dare you? I'm going to take to the floor of the Senate and whine and complain about it. The arrogance of these people. See, they've been living too long under the dual standard of the application of our federal laws, where if you have a D at the end of your name, you can do whatever the hell you want and nothing will happen. That's what's playing out before your very eyes right now. I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, if you happen upon a press conference of a cabinet secretary, do not rush toward the stage and start screaming questions at said cabinet secretary. You will be arrested and you will not get the deference this guy got. I promise you. This is a perfect don't try this at home moment. But then as Senator Padilla was going through all of these questions that were racing through his mind while he was being detained for 15 minutes, the emotion got the best of him. A little bit more from this speech, and I want you to picture the full scene here. This is zoomed in, but this is the U.S. Senate with all of those desks wrapped around him, almost like theater in the round, because this is a performance, and we're watching this theater unfold before our eyes. It is L.A. after all, where this took place, and well, Alex, don't quit your day job. There's way better actors in California, but go ahead, have a go.
Am I being arrested here? And what will a city already on edge from being militarized think when they see their United States senator being handcuffed just for trying to ask a question? And what will my wife think? What will our boys think? And I also remember asking myself, if this aggressive escalation is the result of someone speaking up against the abuses and overreach of the Trump administration, was it really worth it? But colleagues, how many Americans in our nation's history have marched, have protested, have shed blood, even lost their lives to protect our rights? How many Americans have served in wars overseas to protect our freedoms here at home?
Yeah, all right. I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm going to call bullshit on this entire thing. I'm sorry. I'm just so overcome with emotion. I don't know if I can keep it together. This is the phoniest thing I've ever heard of. But then comparing what he did to people wearing the uniform overseas and dying in war, who in the hell do you think you are, pal? The clock is ticking on his 15 minutes, and I'm pretty sure they're up. That's despicable. But he's a hero on the left right now. Oh, please, he's gonna. You know, Gavin Newsom is jealous of this guy, by the way. You know, remember when Gavin Newsom said, "What is this? Yeah, stop with all the big man talk, Tom Homan. Just come here and arrest me. Arrest me. Come on and arrest me, Tom." Tom Homan ain't gonna go to Sacramento and arrest you, pal. But Padilla actually got the handcuffs. Gavin Newsom's got him like, damn it, that could have been me. I could have gotten the handcuffs. Because they're all drama queens. They're all trying to one-up each other now. We'll show you the latest one in New York where, listen, two great theater towns, L.A. and New York. The New York guy may be a better actor. I mean, they say that about New York actors. You know, when you have to survive on the stage, you end up having a little bit more skills than TV and film actors. That said, when he was done weeping his brains out on the floor of the U.S. Senate, he then took to X and started interacting with Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller highlighted a clip of the mayor of Los Angeles warning the Trump administration, saying, I don't think you quite... In fact, I think maybe we can see the clip. Hang on. Let's start with the clip.
Back. is appealing to Angelenos to help support the area, its families, and other spots in LA hardest hit by the immigration enforcement.
I don't think the president understands that there are entire sectors of our economy that could not function without immigrant labor.
There you go, Mayor Wide Mouth Bass there. You don't understand. We have whole sectors of our economy that can't function without the cheap exploited slave labor that we encourage to come across the border. We got businesses here. They donate to my campaign. They'd go under if they couldn't exploit all that cheap labor. What do you want them to do? Hire American citizens? Pfft, they can't do that. Are you kidding? With the taxes we charge in this city? No. Stephen Miller responds to that and says the Los Angeles mayor says her economy is dependent on vast criminal law breaking, and the federal government should ensure vast criminal law breaking continues forever. That's exactly what she's saying. Don't come here and enforce federal law, otherwise our economy will fall apart. We have to violate the law here to survive, is what she is saying. And she's smiling about it. She thinks it's hilarious. So then Padilla responds, because he's finally gotten, all the tears out of his eyes so he can focus on his smartphone. He says, you've got it flat out wrong, Stephen Miller. Let's not forget, California has the world's fourth largest economy in the world because of immigration, not in spite of it. Have you heard that talking point, by the way? Stephen Miller has. Can I just give you a tip? I've met Stephen Miller, engaged with him several times offline in private conversations. I remember meeting him for the first time in 2016, maybe 2015, actually, now that I think about it. It was October of 2015. It was my wife's birthday. We were having dinner in downtown Los Angeles with downtown DC with Ann Coulter, who was in town. And Ann said, I said, well, it's Meredith's birthday. I said, yeah, come on out. We'll go out for dinner. We'll have a birthday celebration. I'm bringing a friend of mine. He works in Senator Sessions' office. He's an expert on immigration. His name is Stephen Miller. So Ann brought Stephen Miller to this dinner. And it was the most surreal experience of my life. I've never met a person like Stephen Miller. You mention anything about immigration policy, and he's got a file cabinet, photographic memory of every single. I feel like his brain is a giant multi-dimensional spreadsheet of data and statistics about immigration for every month and every year of this country's existence. If you want to engage in an argument or a debate with Stephen Miller about immigration, just surrender before you start. You will not win. So Alex Padilla tries this. We're the fourth largest economy on the planet because of immigration. Really? Stephen Miller responds and says, Senator, please clarify your position. Are you saying you do or do not want a vast illegal alien workforce in California? As to GDP, mass migration slashes per capita wealth. In other words, if California annexed Haiti, its GDP would grow about $20 billion. But the average California worker would actually be much poorer. You follow that? In other words, the GDP in California may be great, but as you continue to import low wage, below minimum wage, exploited cheap labor from third world countries, and expand your population with all of those people, they may be contributing to your gross GDP, but on average, Californians will actually be making less and less and less and have a lower quality of life. Senator Padilla is celebrating the fact that the top 0.1% in California is raking in the bucks on the backs of slave labor. And Stephen Miller just exposed his ass. It's beautiful. That's the end of Padilla, at least the end of his 15 minutes of fame. And boy, what a shining star he was. Now let's shift our focus to the East Coast, where in New York City, they're having a mayoral campaign. The primary for the Democrats is next week. So one of the candidates, the comptroller of New York, needed to get some attention. So what did he do? he decided to get in the way of federal law enforcement officers serving a warrant on an illegal immigrant. What happened next? This happened next.
Judicial warrant. Do you have a judicial warrant? Do you have a judicial warrant? Can I see the judicial warrant? Can I see the warrant? I will let go when you show me the judicial warrant. Where is it? Where is the warrant? I have it in my hand here. You're obstructing. You're obstructing. I would let go. Let go. I'd like to see the warrant. No! Take it back. Take it back. Take it back. Step back. You don't have authority to arrest U.S. citizens. Sir, you don't have the authority to arrest U.S. citizens. You don't have to. I'm not obstructing. I'm standing right here in the hallway. I asked to see the judicial warrant.
I love you're not obstructing anymore because you've been restrained, and they do have the authority to arrest if you're obstructing their activities, which is exactly what he was. By the way, speaking of authority, you don't have the authority to demand to see a warrant on behalf of a third party. Who the hell do you think you are? Well, I'll tell you who he thinks he is. He's Brad Lander. This video was posted on his X account by his wife, who just happened to be ready to post the video. Boy, that's great luck, isn't it?
By asking for a judicial warrant? You don't have the authority to arrest U.S. citizens asking for a judicial warrant. Stay back, please. Stay back. Stay back. No, ma'am, for your own safety. For your own safety.
I can't believe you're arresting me. Where are you taking him? Hello? Hi,
Since you have no authority to arrest U.S. citizens, where are you taking me? And with what authority?
I'm being embarrassed too. Why are you arresting me?
And with what authority?
I really love the arrogance of all the people in that corridor demanding to know where they're taking it, as if law enforcement is obligated in any way whatsoever to answer the questions of people screaming at them after they've made an arrest of a person impeding their ability to carry out their job. I want to go back to the first thing that I said. Do not try this at home. Any average American citizen who attempts to do what this elected official in New York did or what Senator Padilla in California did will be treated the same way. See, they're indignant and they're angry and they're creating these scenes because they cannot stand the fact that suddenly laws are being applied to them as well. See, they've learned the lesson of the last 20 years that the Clintons get away with anything, that Gavin Newsom gets away with anything, that every single person that forced you to get a shot, forced you to put a mask on, forced you to keep your kids home from school, forced you not to go out and interact with the rest of the world, they went ahead and broke all of the protocols that they laid out there against you and against your business. They got rich during the pandemic. You went poor during the pandemic. They love setting up rules that they don't have to follow, and they become so accustomed to it that now when suddenly the law is applied to them just a little bit, they are pissed off. So they get attention by doing this. But see, the only message that's sent to us, to voters, is that they still have this arrogance that they are above the law. How dare you arrest an elected official? How dare you arrest a political figure? Have you seen Donald Trump's mugshot, pal? And I promise you, he then didn't call a press conference and start crying about being arrested. But I told you there was something in this moment when Lander in New York was arrested. They wanted the pictures. They wanted the video. They wanted the attention. They wanted everyone in the planet to know that Donald Trump's Nazi, Klansmen, white supremacist Gestapo stormtroopers were arresting Democrats for no reason, right? That's the message they wanted. What they didn't expect was what really happened. What they didn't expect was this picture. What they didn't expect were those two guys handling the arrest. Do you see what I see? I'm sorry, where are the white Nazi Klansmen Gestapo stormtroopers? I see two law enforcement officers, one with a mask, but he looks to be Latino American to me, and another person without a mask who is undoubtedly Asian American. Two men of color. Two men of color working for federal law enforcement, doing their job, who were impeded from doing their job by a grandstanding, uppity, white, liberal, Democrat lawmaker jumping into the room saying, "Stop what you're doing. Don't you know who I am?" He's the comptroller of New York. He has no authority in this proceeding. This is a federal law enforcement proceeding. The mayor of New York has no standing in this. So it wasn't your white Klansman Gestapo that were being impeded and decided to arrest this man. It was two gentlemen of color, two upstanding American federal law enforcement officers doing their job. And we can all be very proud of them. After he was detained, he then immediately staged a press conference because he had plenty to say, because that's why he did this. He's running for mayor. He wanted attention. So let's give him some attention.
And so I just engaged in that tradition of accompaniment, of trying to bear witness, of trying to walk peacefully with someone, of trying to make sure that the rules are followed. And so...
All right. This is the whole thing. He was accompanying him. You know how he was accompanying him? He locked arms with him. He locked arms with him, which impeded the arrest process. You try arresting somebody when they're locking arms with someone. You need to unlock them. And when he resisted having his arms unlocked, that's when he got arrested. You don't do that. Again, I just want to remind you, don't be this guy. See, he's a Democrat, and they may not end up pressing charges. He may walk scot-free. I promise you that will not be the case with you. I promise you. If you are not a Democrat elected official and you try this, you're done. The arrogance of these people. And they know that, by the way. They know it. That's why they do this. Because they know the rules don't apply to them. But you better believe, if he wants someone arrested, if he wins the mayor's race, and just average New Yorkers get in the way of cops doing their job, you think he's going to step up as the mayor and say, yeah, let him off, let him off. Oh, hell no. They love throwing their power around. All right, a little bit more from his little press conference here.
And are going to make sure that at least they get as much help as we can provide, as New York City, as New York State can provide to help them avoid being separated or being detained. But then when we went back upstairs, again, we had these next two cases, this Yoruba gentleman and then Edgardo, who we just tried to walk out of the building. And I think you saw the video. All I tried to do was just hold Edgardo's arm and ask the ICE agents, do you have a warrant? And they would not show me the warrant. And I said I'd let go of his arm as soon as they showed it to me, and they did not show it to me, and you saw what happened.
There you go. I was just accompanying him, and then I told them that I will let go of his arm if you do this. I'm sorry, you're negotiating something? Don't try this at home. Don't try to act like an arrogant Democrat, because they live under different rules than you do, guys. It won't end well for you. Also, by the way, did you notice who was with him? Governor Hochul of New York, who I believe has endorsed him for mayor. And then if you notice, you can kind of see it because the Chiron is covering it. But see this poster right here, right behind his name, Lander. See the blue and gold? He's got his campaign poster there on the podium because this was a campaign stunt. That's why he had the governor there walking out the doors with him, and the press were there and all the cameras were there. He wanted attention. He's running third right now, maybe fourth in the primary race next week, and he wants your vote. And this is what Democrats do now. They stage this street theater so that they can get arrested, so they can get attention, because they think it helps them politically. So you had California with Padilla. Now you got New York with Lander. What's going on in the Windy City? Well, here's Illinois. 4 lawmakers trying to barge into an ICE facility. They didn't get anywhere. They wouldn't let him in the door, which they're probably pissed about. Damn it, how are we going to get arrested if they won't even let us in? You'll notice they're all wearing their security pin lapel pins identifying themselves as lawmakers. Senator Padilla did not wear that, so that's probably one of the reasons why they weren't wrestled to the ground. This is pathetic. It's gross, it's disgusting, and it proves that they still have no ideas and they have no plan. And the only thing they can do to get attention is stunts like this, which actually end up boomeranging and backfiring on them. Because to the American people, all we're seeing are drama queens who are trying to get arrested, doing whatever they can to get arrested, and then acting indignant that they're treated just the same way an ordinary American citizen would be treated if we tried to do the same thing. And they can't stand that. And honestly, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think that's a very good look when you're running for office and your big complaint is that you're being treated like anybody else. But who am I to tell the Democrats how to do their job? They're killing it, man. Absolutely killing it. We have some amazing news, like some historically great news that you're going to be very, very happy about. And for some reason, the media is not talking about it at all. Why? Because it validates every single one of you who voted for Donald Trump because you were sick and tired of the disaster at our southern border. We have just found out something extraordinary, something unprecedented, something that I doubt anybody thought was possible, even though you knew that Trump was going to make good on his promise and secure the southern border and stop the chaos. I don't think any of us expected this result. The numbers for May are in right now with regard to border crossings, illegal crossings, encounters with Border Patrol, and then the numbers of people who were released back into the country. In May of 2024, when Joe Biden was still president, this was when he was cracking down on the border because he had an election coming up. They encountered over 62,000 illegal immigrants on our southern border that were then released into the country, you know, with like a summons to appear one day, someday, that they'll never appear for. 62,000 in 1 month. 1 year later, that number has dropped to zero. Like zero. In the month of May in 2025, with our new president, our new vice president, our new Secretary of Homeland Security, and our new border czar, the number of illegal immigrants who were encountered by Border Patrol and then released into the country was zero. Absolutely astounding. I mean, how many times have you watched things unfold in American politics? I don't care if you've been paying attention to politics for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or 50 years. You watch stuff going on in this country, you get angry, you start shouting back at the television. Maybe you shout back to some host on a talk radio station. Maybe you fire off an angry letter, or maybe you fire off some even angrier comments on somebody's Facebook page. And you get so angry and you get so activated that you decide to get involved. You find a politician, maybe for president or governor or what have you, who promises to fix the problem. Yeah, you're upset about that? I'm upset about that too. You vote for me and I'm going to fix it. And so you get up off the sofa and you go volunteer for a campaign. Maybe you make phone calls. Maybe you raise money. Maybe you donate money yourself. Maybe you go knocking door to door because you're passionate about this. And you know that this guy, this gal, this politician, they're going to fix the problem if you get them elected. And then you get them elected. And he won. This is great. You're finally going to fix that problem. And then a couple of years later, you look around, it's like he hasn't done a damn thing. The problem is still there. He just gave me lip service and he's giving me excuses. Oh, yeah, I want to fix that. Problem is, Congress, they're not helping out. I'd love to fix that problem for you. I know I promised to fix that problem, but, you know, I mean, listen, they got the filibuster in the Senate. I can't do anything. My hands are tied. How often have you heard that? How often, since you've been following American politics, do you get fired up about something and you do whatever you can to get someone elected saying that they're going to fix the problem? And then all you get is empty, hollow excuses. I don't know about you, but it's happened for decades for me. So for the last 4 years, you have seen the chaos at our southern border. Chaos that Biden and Harris and Mayorkas and all of the Democrats first denied was even happening. Then finally, in an election year, they reckon, oh, yeah, we got a problem. But, you know, we got to pass this new border bill. If you pass this bill, then I can do something about it. Otherwise, nothing else I can do. I can't do anything. Donald Trump walks into the room and says, elect me. I'll fix this. It will get fixed. Look at that. 0. This is extraordinary. And how this isn't being celebrated everywhere, how this isn't headline news, even for the people who hate it. But it's being ignored. For the most part, it's being ignored. New York Post has the article. Border agents didn't release a single illegal immigrant into the U.S. last month, down from 62,000 under Biden. Border Patrol agents didn't release, the Post exclusively reveals, agents caught 8,725 migrants crossing illegally at the southern border. By the way, that number, too, is a phenomenal success story. They caught 8,700 illegal immigrants crossing the border. A year ago, there were 117,000 who had crossed. Think about that for a minute. Why last year did 117,000 people try to cross the border illegally who then got caught? We don't know how many didn't get caught. In this year, that number dropped 93%. Why? Because they all know that they're not going to get in. And if they're caught, they're going to get sent back. So they're not even trying anymore. By the way, I want to point out, there has not been an increase to the budget. There has not been, we're still operating under the same budget as last year under Joe Biden. There has not been more resources. There have not been more people hired. There's not more equipment. There's not more surveillance. There was one new person hired, and he sits in the Oval Office. Acting Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Pete Flores said it's a result of the Trump administration's tough border policies. One of the most monumental policy changes made by Trump was the reversal of Joe Biden's catch and release scheme, which resulted in millions of illegal border jumpers being allowed into the U.S. In fact, let's look at some of the extraordinary numbers, and then we'll hear from people at DHS and Border Patrol. Here's the U.S. border encounters for the month of May over the course of the last 4 years. 2022, the Border Patrol encountered 241,000 people. In 23, it was 206,000. In 24, it was 180,000, because remember, that's when they were cracking down. And this year, the encounters fell to 12,000, which means people aren't even trying anymore, at least not at the levels that they were. And no new law has been passed. Not one. So let's turn to the Border Patrol, appearing on Fox News this morning.
So it's phenomenal. Anybody that cares about national security, knows that under the last administration, we were breaking record numbers of people that were coming into the country illegally and that were being released into the country. And to go from 62,000, over 62,000, down to 0, we're breaking record numbers in the right direction now. We're securing our border. We will not declare victory, but I will tell you, we are fast approaching it. We are closer to operational security of the border than we've ever had. 2 days ago, we broke another record. 141 entries at the southwest border. Those entries are all apprehended, and none of them will be released.
That's incredible. So what is your message to, I'm instantly thinking that we're keeping Border Patrol agents safer and our communities safer. So what is your message to Donald Trump?
The message the President of the United States is thank you. Thank you for the support that you've given the U.S. Border Patrol. We've said all along that the United States Border Patrol knows how to secure the border. We just need leadership. And with the leadership of President Trump and Secretary Noem, we are proving exactly what we've been saying for years. Let us enforce the laws and we'll get the job done. And I think the American people are seeing that. We're making our community safer. We're making our nation more secure. And we're just getting started.
I love that.
So it's phenomenal. Anybody that can.
Oops, what's your message to Donald Trump? Thank you. Thanks for letting us do our job. Think about that for a minute. You're a Border Patrol agent right now. You're a man or woman in uniform wearing the badge, federal law enforcement, and your job is to secure the border. And for the last 4 years, you were reduced to a paperwork processor. Again, I want to be clear. We have not increased the number of Border Patrol agents. We have just shifted their focus to protecting the border. Now, I know you would think, geez, a Border Patrol agent, you would think that their job would be to protect the border. Not for the last 4 years. Their job was to fill out forms and allow people that cross the border illegally into the country. Here's your form. Thanks for giving me your information. Here's your smartphone. Here's your car, your EBT card so you can have free food. Here's your plane ticket so we can move you to a part of the country where we need to boost up our congressional redistricting. Here's your free health care if you go to California. Here's your summons. Now, you make sure you show up for your asylum hearing. It'll be about 12 years from now. Good luck. That's what they've been doing. Imagine joining the Border Patrol, going through the process of becoming a law enforcement officer, a cop. Your job is to protect the border, and then you're told you're not allowed to do the one thing that you did. Why do people join the Border Patrol? So they can help people come into the country illegally? Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. And now they're actually allowed to do that. And look at the results when you actually have law enforcement enforce the law. See, the lawlessness that we have been living under for so many years cannot be overstated. And the results of this election, listen, nobody is perfect. No politician is perfect, God knows. There's a lot of things that this president, I want him to do that he hasn't gotten to yet. But boy, if this is the only thing he does, and this is the track record, this is the success story, if you cared about the border and all of the things that go with it, the economic impact, the impact on our budgets and our tax dollars that go to pay for services, and the we must, by law, based on a Supreme Court decision, we must provide a free public school education to children brought into this country illegally. Even if English is not their primary language, even if they don't know a word of English, it is incumbent on your school district where you live to pay for a bilingual teacher to teach that child in their native tongue. Do you have any idea how expensive that is? Do you have any idea how school budgets have been blown apart over the last 4 years having to accommodate that? And that's just one small fraction of the impact that the chaos on our southern border has wrought on our government, on our country, on our culture. Then add the criminal element to it. If you care about any of those things and you voted for Donald Trump because you wanted this finished and fixed once and for all, you should be the happiest American voter on the planet right now. This is the greatest single electoral success story that I have seen in my lifetime. That a politician said, vote for me and I will do this. You did, he did, and it is absolutely problem solved. And that's why you're not hearing about it, by the way. That's why no one is paying any attention to this, except for these guys, Fox News and Newsmax, and us. Tricia McLaughlin, spokesperson for DHS last night.
Look at what happened in terms of border crosses last month. Let me see. 0. I mean, if we could just put that full screen up, 0 illegal aliens released in the U.S. in 2025. For Biden administration, how about 62,000 in May of 2024? Is that to me is a stat I didn't think was possible.
Brian, I don't think much of the world thought this was possible, but under President Donald Trump and Secretary Kristi Noem, we had the most secure border in American history. And what more does this mean with the lack of border crossings? It means that our CBP agents have the ability not just to be at those facilities processing people, but they can be out in the field making sure that cartels are not getting into our country, drug mules, drug traffickers, those are staying out.
So, Tricia, just a big picture question. I know everyone's focused on the big, beautiful bill, and I understand that. But after this, with the border shut down, with the wall being built, if money is allocated there, is this the first time in 30, 40 years you could actually look at immigration reform? Because there's areas in which both parties agree.
You know, I sure hope so, but we do have to get that big, beautiful bill passed. That would create funding to create 10,000 new ICE enforcement officers. We saw what happened with California and the riots there. Our ICE enforcement officers are being demonized. They're being overwhelmed, and we need to get them the support that they so deserve.
Right.
That's right. And by the way, this success that you're seeing right now is exactly why you see the riots in Los Angeles, because they want to distract you. This is why Alex Padilla goes and gets himself arrested, and the no-name politician in New York gets himself arrested. They're trying to distract you from the success. So when you think about immigration, you think about ICE, you think about Border Patrol, they want you to think about riots in the streets because they're angry that the law is being enforced. They're angry that they're being exposed as the liars that they are. They're angry. Hey, here's a sub-headline for everybody. Walls work. Remember when all the smart people said that walls don't work? Walls don't work. What are you talking about? There's no walls. Apparently walls work. Apparently walls work. All right. So there's the one story, which is we're now down to zero, the month of May, 0 illegal immigrants encountered by Border Patrol were then released into the United States. 0. We are also now seeing the residual effect of that policy in the number of people who are even attempting to cross the border. That's gone from 112,000 down to, like, what was the number? It went down 93%. Down to 8,000, I think, of people who were actually caught. So in other words, people aren't even trying anymore to cross illegally. Okay, so that's the residual effect of law enforcement doing their job and the Trump administration actually making good on their promise to secure the border. Okay, now there's another residual effect too. One more residual effect. Look at this headline, also the New York Post. 1 million illegal immigrants have left on their own since February. 1 million illegal immigrants have said, okay, fine. They're coming into communities, they're arresting the criminals, but then if we happen to be here, we're going to get arrested too. We're going to get deported. Then we'll never be able to come back to the country legally again. They're offering a cash payout if people leave on their own. They're giving me a free ticket. I don't need this in my life. Fine, I'm out of here. 1 million so far have self-deported. By the way, the residual effect of that, people are leaving jobs where they were being exploited for minimum wage or even worse, even less. And so now those jobs need to get filled. And guess what's happening? Legal citizens in this country or legal immigrants with green cards are applying for those jobs. And the demand for wages for those jobs have increased because workers can't be exploited anymore. And so now suddenly these jobs that Americans won't do, well, they actually are doing those jobs. They're just doing them for wages that are fair. Instead of desperate people from third world nations willing to do those jobs for pennies on the dollar because they were being exploited. And the Democrats hate this. Understand something. The Democrats who want the status quo of our illegal immigration into this country, they want that because, as you heard earlier, the city of Los Angeles mayor says our economy relies on that labor. We are relying on that cheap, exploited, imported, illegal immigrant labor. This upends their economic model where Americans will, in fact, do those jobs, but they're going to demand higher wages. And before you go there, all my Milton Friedman, free market people out there, I get it. Higher wages means higher costs of goods and higher salaries. I get that. You're right. But guess what? At the same time, those Americans who are making higher wages will be able to afford to buy those things because they're making higher wages now. And if our government can now stop giving free benefits to people to come into this country illegally, and we can save all of that money in our budgets, and our local government budgets don't have to pay for all the extraordinary expense of illegal immigrants in our communities, that helps the economy too. So this is just, it's not just a vacuum. It's not just a one-off thing. You have to look at an economy as a multifaceted, dimensional product, for lack of a better word. All right. So I told you it was a huge, monumental, incredible success story right now. And it's only been 5 months, right? Really. I mean, he was sworn in January 20th. So you got February, March, April, May, and we're only halfway through June. Let's give it 5 months, okay? If you really want to go from the swearing in day of January 20th. 5 months. And we've got 1 million self-deportations. You've got a 93% drop of people trying to cross the border in the last month. And you've got dropped to 0 the number of illegal immigrants who are allowed to stay in this country. Doesn't get any better than that. And that normally would be a great time to sort of celebrate and end this segment, but not so fast. You see, because every success story has a lesson to learn. Obviously, the lesson here is that if you enforce the laws that are already written, as we've been saying for almost 2 years now on this program, you don't need new laws. You just need to enforce the laws as written, and you can actually get the job done. But there's another part of this lesson, and that is you've been lied to. You were lied to your face. You were lied to your face by the shameless liars in the media, and you were lied to your face by the Democrats. By the Democrats who told you this could not be done, who told you this was a fantasy, who told you this was an impossibility, that this was some sort of make-believe fairy tale. Well, what am I going to do? Just wave a magic wand and people are going to leave? Well, if you want to call enforcing our laws a magic wand, then the answer is yes. 1 year ago, while he was still running for president, Joe Biden, when pressed on the crisis at the border, had one continuous message that he kept repeating over and over and over again. Pass this bill. Pass this bill. Give me more power. And then I'll get it. And remember, they blamed Trump. They said, oh, we'd love to solve the border, but Trump stopped this bill from being passed. And Trump told you the truth. You pass this bill, and the next president won't be able to actually fix the border. That bill that they wanted passed would allow for 4,000 a day to cross illegally before there was an automatic stop to it. And Trump's like, what do you mean 4,000 a day? I'll get it down to 0, which is what he did. But what did Biden say when asked about how do you fix the border? Can you fix the border, President Biden?
Why are you waiting to take executive action on the border?
Because we need more forces on the border. I don't have the authority to do that.
I don't have any authority to do that. I want to remind you that nothing has changed. From the day Joe Biden said that and said, I can't fix the border because I don't have the authority to do it, nothing changed except the man who lives in that house. That's all that's changed. Somehow the authority was there. Joe Biden, again, on the campaign trail with Border Patrol agents used as props. Look how happy they seem.
This compromise legislation will also give me, as president, or any of the next president, emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border between ports of entry when the numbers of immigrants and migrants, overwhelm the border, straining the Border Patrol's ability to process.
That's right. I need this law to have emergency powers to shut down the border between ports of entry when the number of people crossing are overwhelming. That law was not passed, but somehow that power existed already. And now no one's being overwhelmed. The number of people have dropped 93%, and the people allowed to stay in the country have dropped to 0. You enforce your laws, suddenly everything starts to work. One more time, Joe Biden, on his way to the Marine One. Are you going to secure the border? What do you need to secure the border?
Not all I can do. Give me I've asked for the very day I got in office. Give me the Border Patrol. Give me the people, the judges. Give me the people who can stop this and make it work for us.
I've done everything I can do. I've been saying since day one, give me the power, give me the Border Patrol, give me the judges. Trump didn't get any of those things. And yet he's done it. And what about the woman who wanted to be president? What about the woman who was his vice president? What about the woman who was the border czar? What did she say about the border at the time?
By not criminalizing it, you wouldn't have these long detentions anymore.
Being an undocumented immigrant is not a crime. You know, I mean, the idea that people are suggesting that it is a violation of rules. That's not the point, though.
I love the semantics. It's a violation of rules. Really? Is it a rule? Rule. Explain rule. Because you see, our Congress doesn't pass rules. I mean, for themselves on how they legislate. Yeah, internally there are rules, but they're in the business of writing laws, not rules, laws. And then the president and the vice president, they enforce those laws. So when somebody crosses the border illegally, they're just breaking a rule. What, like walking on the grass when there's a sign that says "Do not walk on the grass"? So when you speed, when you're going 70 in a 55 zone, did you break the law or did you just break a rule? If you cheat on your taxes, are you breaking the law or are you just breaking a rule? When you turn a blind eye to a mentally incompetent president and you don't invoke the 25th Amendment and you lie and you say that he's sharp as a tack, did you all right, well, that hypothetical won't go anywhere. Let's go back to Kamala Harris because she had a solution about all the illegal immigration, which is stop calling it illegal. Decriminalize it. There, problem solved.
The way it has been characterized is to suggest that undocumented immigrants are criminals, which has led then to this president being able to then suggest that they're murderers and rapists.
Right.
And so as a former prosecutor, I will say that this is an absolute mischaracterization of the issue in a way that is deceptive and in a way that is dishonest. And I support anything that is about characterizing it in its proper form. And its proper form is to recognize that when people are fleeing harm, when they are asylum seekers, when they are coming here for opportunity like all the immigrants before them, we should not call them criminals. Yeah. We should, and if we're going to be true leaders, put a path in place to let them gain citizenship, which of course does not exist right now. And that's part of the case against this president.
There you go. That was in 2019, by the way, when Trump was president the first time around. But her solution was just decriminalize it. Let them be citizens. Their problem solved. Yeah, there's a lesson here, all right. You should be celebrating and you should be happy. You got involved. You got active. You advocated for one candidate who made you a promise. And for the first time in my lifetime, that promise was not only fulfilled, but fulfilled at a greater level that any of us had ever even imagined. And the other lesson is to always remember who lied to you, who let this get so bad, and who pretended like you were the problem for pointing out that maybe, just maybe, we should enforce the laws that have already been passed in this country. Not pass new laws so you can have new powers that you don't actually need. The laws are there. The power is there. Just enforce the law and do your freaking job. You were lied to. You were lied to by that political party. You were lied to, sadly, by a handful of people in the Republican Party. And you were lied to by the media the entire time, the corporate legacy media, who love lying to you. It's their business model. Remember that, learn those lessons, and celebrate today that your work, your passion, and your vote really paid off. All right, that's our show today. Oh, my son just called me. I missed his call. All right, we have some super chats. Sorry, I just saw my phone ringing. Richard Murray with a $10 super chat. Someone said send Padilla one of those little Oscar replicas. Was it that good, his crying? It was impressive. It really was. Yeah, that was good. Will we ever hear from Senator Padilla again? Imagine how pathetic it is to be a senator. There's only 2 per state. To be a senator and know that you're the forgotten one and the memorable one is Adam Schiff. Imagine having to live and work in Adam Schiff's shadow. That's Alex Padilla. So I guess it makes sense. We should send him an Oscar, Richard. Thank you very much for that. We also have a Rumble super chat, a $20 super chat from Keshawn Holzer, most consequential president since. Well, listen, if you're measuring based on the border, the most consequential president ever. Absolutely remarkable. And it's only been 5 months. This president has an opportunity to absolutely, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but yes, great point. Keshawn Holzer, I appreciate the super chat. And yeah, this is, guys, I wanted to do that last segment so much because we need good news. You need to feel good about yourself. You need to feel good about the political process. For too long, too many of us have been like, oh, it doesn't matter. My vote doesn't matter anymore. You know, it's not going to make a dime's bit of difference. Republicans and Democrats are all the same. It's the uniparty. Nothing ever changes. Nothing ever changes. And I get it. I do. But you got to recognize that if you give up, it's over. It's beyond over if you give up. You're all that's left now of keeping this country together in the vision of our founders. And so we need to recognize that, yes, we can make a difference. There is a difference. And we make that difference with our vote. And it happened. And this border security is the perfect example. That's why they're so desperate. That's why they're taking to the streets. That's why they're burning down their own cities. That's why they're throwing themselves at law enforcement, trying to get arrested to draw up people's attention. That's how desperate they are. Don't let up. And don't be an Eeyore. Be happy about this. It's phenomenal. All right, guys, that is it for today. We appreciate it. No more super chats, right? We're good. No more super chats. And I did not Newsmax. I had Newsmax last night. Oh, I'm doing the two-way with Mark Halpern, two-way tonight. If you want to watch it on this very platform, wherever you're watching me right now, 6 p.m. tonight, two-way tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.